Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. I'm your host, Mike, and today we're going to be taking a look at our first GlenDronach single cask that I've reviewed for you on this channel. It's the 2005 vintage of this 13-year-old. It is cask number 1311 for any of you checking at home. So if you have the same bottle, love to hear your thoughts on this particular one. It is bottle 288 of 700. And it comes in at, as with all of the single cask GlenDronach, at cask strength, this particular one is 55.6% ABV. It was distilled back in June of 2005, and it does not say when it was actually taken out of the cask. The year bottled was 2019. So GlenDronach, a distillery that I have brought you a few of their whiskeys, the 21, the 18, which is the Parliament and the Allardyce respectively, the 15 Revival, the old one, the good one, and I may have brought you a 12. I believe I have. Anyway, this will be at least the fifth GlenDronach I've brought you guys. And this is, again, as I mentioned at the top, the first single cask that I've been able to bring you guys. Not always easy to get your hands on these GlenDronachs here in Columbus, Ohio. I had to pick this one up at an auction. Since it was my intro into some of the single cask strength versions, I wanted to take it easy and just kind of start out with a younger age statement. It's a little bit less expensive before I started jumping into the 20-something-year-old whiskeys that can get quite pricey. But GlenDronach, just tell you a little bit about the distillery, and just in case this is the first time you've stumbled upon my channel. It is a Highland Sunnyside whiskey, very, very well known for their sherry matured whiskeys. This is one of the big sherry bomb distilleries, in my opinion, along with Glenfarclas, Macallan, probably forgetting one or two, Aberlour, you know, the ones you think of when you think sherry. And being that it is right around Thanksgiving time here in the States, weather's getting cold, and I'm in the mood for dessert, some Christmas cake whiskeys. So we're going to tell you what I think about this single cask. Let me tell you what it says a little bit on the back to see if there's any information that is really pertinent to this particular bottle for this review. This says every year they select certain casks, blah, blah, blah. Bottle with whiskeys dating back to 1968. That's great. Yeah, nothing really that pertains particularly to this particular bottle. So I won't bother you guys with a lot of the tube reading. You can always go online and take a look at that. I'm really just here more to give you my opinions on the whiskey and tell you what I think about the smell, taste, color, and texture of it. So let's get into it. First, I'll show you this natural color. It is not nearly as dark as, say, the Allardyce or the Parliament, not by a long shot. Even though it is cask strength, single cask, Sherry Cask whiskey, it is not nearly as dark as some of those really dark Allardyces and Parliaments, which now, I believe the 2018 Parliament I have is 23 years old, and the 2018 Allardyce isn't far behind. So they're 20-something-year-old whiskey, so it makes sense that they'd be darker, but since they weren't at cask strength, I just thought it'd be good to kind of show you the difference between the colors on a true cask strength based on one that's just quite a bit older. Anyway, there's a nice little leaflet right here. It tells you a little bit about this particular whiskey, and they give their own tasting notes. Not that I like to look at that sort of thing, but I want to give you guys my personal opinion, and if you want to read what they have to say afterwards, easy to find online. All right, so bottle 288 of 700, so only 700 bottles of this were made. Again, cask 1311. A little swirl, tell you what I get on the nose. Very spicy initially, a lot of cinnamon. Cinnamon comes up really quickly in this one, along with a really nice dark chocolate. Not milk chocolate, dark chocolate. It is very, very sweet though. I know I said dark chocolate as opposed to milk chocolate and cinnamon, which doesn't necessarily go with a sweetness theme, but it is very, very sweet on the nose. Very sugary, very candied. You're getting nuttiness, clove, nutmeg for sure, baking spices. It's almost like they're making Christmas cake. This really cinnamon, nutmeg, clove, sweetness. A little bit of orange zest, not a ton. There's some fruit there, I'm not quite distinguishing perfectly. I've had this bottle for about 6 months, about half a year, and I've only shared it with one person, so pretty much this is all me drinking it to try to get it to where I felt like I've known the whiskey. With any cask strength whiskey, I want to let it open up and breathe in the bottle for a long time. So it's done that for, like I said, I've had this bottle open for about 6 months. So it's a good amount of time. I wanted to bring it to you before it flattened out. Not necessarily that it would, but after about 6 months open, about, I would say, a third of the bottle gone, maybe only a quarter, thought it was about the right time to bring this to you, especially being the time of the year, getting cold, leaves are on the ground, that dampness. Plums, that's what it is. No, dates, not plums, dates. Very sweet date. Like a sugar-covered date. That's why I almost thought it was plum, like more of a little more sugary, but it is a date, just a sugar-covered date. You know, it almost makes me think of, I'm sure many of you seen Raiders of the Lost Ark. Great movie, one of my favorite all-time movies. When I was a kid, man, I could watch that movie over and over again. Still to this day, it comes on TV randomly, despite the fact that I have the Blu-ray, despite the fact that I have the complete collection on Blu-ray that gives you the extended versions. I will still watch it if it comes on TBS or USA or whatever. It's that fun of a movie. But there was a scene in that movie where Harrison Ford, who was Indiana Jones, where his character was talking to Salah, who was his local guide in Egypt, and he was eating dinner over at his house, and they had this big bowl of dates that, you know, was kind of being prepared by his, I guess, house servants or the people that worked for him, and then someone slipped in to try to pour some poison on him and, you know, essentially get Indiana Jones off the trail of the Ark. Well, anyway, he goes to eat one, throws one up in the air, and he catches it in the air, and he says, bad dates, because he noticed a monkey, I'm getting off track here, decided to eat one of the dates when they weren't looking, and he had succumbed to the poison. Well, anyway, those dates in that particular movie had like a sheen to them or shine to them. Maybe it was from just the way they prepared them in the movie, just trying to make them look glossy, but they looked sugary and candied. And that's look is kind of what I'm getting on the nose, like a sugary date. I'm sorry, that's a very long-winded way of saying sugary date, but there it is. Yeah, cinnamon, nutmeg, clove, a little bit of shoe polish or shoe leather. You know, when I was a younger man, you could always go to the local airport and there were always people to shine your shoes. And since they just really don't exist anymore, I actually have a little shoe shine kit, so I try to keep my shoes looking like just really like mirrors if I possibly can. I don't know why, this is a dumb habit, but so I bought this, you know, shoe shine kit, and it's specifically the brown shoe polish. I get just a tad bit of that brown shoe polish in the nose. But as always, in a good way. All right, take a sip, see what I think on the palate. Mm-hmm. Dark chocolate's right there, cinnamon's there, pow, spice. But also like a toasted oak, or toasted in general is really the best way I can describe it. I've had a few bourbons that were like, labeled themselves as like a toasted bourbon, which to me was always just a high level of char on the barrel itself. But it reminds me a lot of a high toasted bourbon. Very, very just sort of ashy, but not in a sooty way, where you really kind of feel that cask, kind of right there on the sides, right on the sides of your tongue, right next to where the chocolate comes in. So like on the far edge is chocolate, and just barely in is like this nice toasted oak. It intermingles with that chocolate really, really nicely. Wow. That's really solid for a 13-year-old. I mean, I understand it's a single cask and cask strength, and this is not a cheap bottle. It's, you know, $120, $130, something like that. So for a young age statement, you know, it's pricey, but man, I tell you what, it really delivers a nice sherry punch with some nice fruits, really nice spices, cinnamon, and I don't care if it's on the nose, which I did say, nutmeg, spice, clove. On the palate, it's the exact same. Just nutmeg, spice, clove. A little bit of orange zest coming right in there at the end. Yeah, candied orange almost. And almost like something else I'm just not quite putting my finger on. Some kind of intermingling with that orange. Almost like ginger, I would say. It almost kind of reminds me of like a Macallan 18. There's just a small, just little creek, not even a river of ginger, where the Macallan 18 has far more ginger. There's just a little bit of this nice candy ginger along with the orange note on this one as well, on the linger, on the finish, which is actually really quite nice. So this is my first time with a GlenDronach single cask. Like I said, bringing it to you, ladies and gentlemen here. So I'm going to definitely try to get my hands on more of them because this is a really nice whiskey. I have tried older ones. Malta Man Cave shared a 24 or 26 year with me. Super dark, dense one. Really, really nice bottle. But definitely will get my hands on a few more of these and bring them to you because I'm pretty impressed with this 13-year-old, especially at the price point. So gave it a little bit of water. It is cask strength, so kind of bring it down as you see fit. Now, I won't say this comes off as a cask strength whiskey on the palate initially. It does have a little bit of bite to it. So while it's not going to give you the pop that some cask strength whiskeys are, it definitely isn't one of the softer cask strength whiskeys. It's right there, medium high as far as how it approaches your palate and your nose initially. So it's got some bite to it. All right, so now that I add some water, I gotta tell you, orange and ginger, and that's what it is now, I can tell for sure. The orange and the ginger have a big step up with a little bit of water added. Still a little bit of that brown shoe leather. It's so sweet though. Like the sweetness on this just cannot be overstated. Or is it understated? Understated? Overstated? Cannot be overstated. That means I'm making too big of a deal about it. Tell me in the comment section. I'm not a linguist. But still, that sweetness, that date, nutmeg, clove. The cinnamon's taken a bit of a step back with water, but yeah, that ginger and that orange really come up nice with a few drops of water. And maybe I just put maybe 2 or 3 in here, so I didn't overdo it a ton. So being that it's originally 55.6, this might be with a few drops 52, 53% ABV. So you can take it down quite a bit more and play with it. There's really a lot to discover in this one. This one really has a number of nice layers on it. So if any of you guys were able to get a hold of this cask 1311, I'd like to really know what you guys thought about it. I'm pretty impressed with it. I like sherry, not as much as I like peat, but for any of you who are huge sherry nuts, if you happen to have this one, tell me what you think. Yeah, with water, the nutmeg, the ginger, the clove, and the orange really took a nice step up, where the cinnamon and the chocolate took a step back. All right, I'll give you one more sip, put a score on it, tell you my closing thoughts. Still that toasted element to it is right there. Love to know what they did with this particular cask. I bet they put a high level of char on it. That's my opinion. But it just still leaves some of the nicest lingering flavors. Again, with water, the orange and the ginger are there more. Almost a candied orange and ginger. Again, nutmeg, clove. Same things I've already said to you guys. It's just the nuttiness and the sweetness comes up a little bit more with water, where the cinnamon and the chocolate take a little bit of a step back. So depending on how you prefer your sherried whiskey, adjust it accordingly. So in regards to your whiskey score, it's a good whiskey. It's not a solid whiskey, it's a good whiskey. So I'm gonna give it a score of 89 out of 100 for sherried whiskey, especially if you wanna get your hands on some cask strength sherry whiskeys. If you're a fan of this distillery, 120, 130 bucks, I would think would be a reasonable amount to pay for what this bottle delivers. At least that's my opinion. So again, if you had a bottle or a bottle similar to it, I know they made a few other 13-year-old cask vintages. I think there's like a 4564 as far as the cask number, but see how close it is to the one you have. Anyway, I want to thank you for once again joining for another one of Mike's Whiskey Reviews. I'd like to hear again your thoughts in the comments section, and until next time, I wish you happy drinking.